Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my reading journey. Hope you're all doing fantastic, and we're gonna continue with the second part of the cool story I started yesterday. It's the passing of Black Eagle. Let's do this. So, for a week, that car was trundled southward, shifted, laid over, and manipulated after the manner of rolling stocks, but Chicken stuck to it, leaving it only in necessary times to satisfy his hunger and frisked, 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 frisked. He knew it must go down to the cattle country, and San Antonio, in the heart of it, was his goal. There was, sorry, there the air was so salubrious. What's the beautiful world, guys, right? And mild, salubrious, and mild. The people indulgent, forget the meaning, and long suffering. The bartenders there would not kick him if he should eat too long or too often. At one place they would swear at him as if by rote and without heed. They swore so drollingly, and they rarely paused short of their full vocabulary, which was copious, so that Chicken had often gulped a good meal during the process of the vituperative prohibition. The season there was spring-like. The plazas were pleasant at night, with music and gayety, except during this slight and frequent cold snaps. One could sleep comfortably out of doors in case the interiors should develop inhospitality. At Texarkana, his car was switched to the I and GN. Then still southward it trailed until, at length, it crawled across the Colorado Bridge at Austin and leaned out straight as an arrow for the run to San Antonio. When the freight halted at that town, Chicken was fast asleep. In 10 minutes, the train was off again to Laredo, the end of the road. Those empty cattle cars were for distribution along the line at points from which the ranches shipped their stock. When Chicken awoke, his car was stationary. Looking out between the souths, he saw it was a bright moonlit night. Scrambling out, he saw his car with three others abandoned on a little sliding in a wild and lonesome country. A cattle pen and chute stood on one side of the track. The railroad bisected the west. Dim ocean of prayer, in the midst of which Chicken, with his futile rolling stock, was as completely stranded as was Robinson with his landlocked boat. A white post stood near the rails. Going up to it, Chicken read the letters at the top. SA 90. Laredo was nearly so as far to the south. He was almost 100 miles from any town. Coyotes began to yelp in the mysterious sea around him. Chicken felt lonesome. He had lived in Boston without an education, in Chicago without nerve, in Philadelphia without a sleeping place, in New York without a pool, and in Pittsburgh sober. And yet he had never felt so lonely as now. Suddenly, through the intense silence, he heard the whicker of a horse. The sound came from the side of the track toward the east, and Chicken began to explore timorously in that direction. He stepped high along the mat of curly mesquite grass, for he was afraid for everything there might be in the wilderness: snakes, rats, sorry. Crap. Is it still working? All right. He stepped high along the mat of curly mesquite grass, for he was afraid of everything there might be in this wilderness: snakes, rats, brigands, centipedes, mirages, cowboys, had hand fanned and goes fanned then goes tarantulas, tamales. He had read of them in the story papers. Rounding a clump of prickly pear that reared high its fantastic and menacing array of rounded heads, he was struck of shivering terror by a snort, and a thunderous plunge as the horse himself, startled, bounded away some 50 yards and then resumed his grazing. But here was the one thing in the desert that Chicken did not fear. He had been reared on a farm. He had handled horses, understood them, and could ride. Approaching slowly and speaking soothingly, he followed the animal, which after its first flight seemed gentle enough, and secured the end of the 20-foot lariat that dragged after him in the grass. It required him but a few moments to contrive the rope into an ingenious nose bridle. No idea what is it. after the style of the Mexican borzoi. In another he was upon the horse's back and off at a splendid lope, giving the animal free choice of direction. He will take me somewhere, said Chicken to himself. It would have been a thing of joy. That untrammeled gallop over the moonlit prairie, even to Chicken, who laughed at exertion, but that his mood was not for it. His head ached. A growing thirst was upon him. The somewhere whither his lucky mount might convey him as full of dismal peradventure. And now he noted that the horse moved to a definite goal. Where the prairie lay smooth, he kept his course straight, as an arrows toward the east, deflected by hill or arroyo or impracticable spinos brakes, he quickly flowed again to the current, charted by his unerring instinct. At last, upon the side of a gentle rise, he suddenly subsided to a complacent walk. A stone's cast away stood a little motte of coma trees. Beneath it a jacal such as the Mexican erect. A one-room house of upright poles, daubed with clay and roofed with grass of tule reeds. An experienced eye would have estimated the spot as the headquarters of a small sleep ranch. In the moonlight, the ground in the nearby corral showed pulverized to a level smoothness by the hoofs of the sheep. Everywhere was carelessly disturbed. The paraphernalia of the place, ropes, bridles, saddles, sheep pelts, wool sacks, feed, froze, and camp leader. The barrel of drinking water stood in the end of the two-horse wagon near the door. The harness was piled, promiscuous upon the wagon tongue, soaking up the dew. Alright, guys, that was a little bit tough part of the story because it's describing something. But anyway, we're gonna continue with the third part tomorrow. See you. Bye. Thank you for joining.